better. Man is a social animal, and as humankind has evolved, man has become more and more embroiled by the need for social acceptance. In today's age of digital and social media, this acceptance becomes all the more important. What this also means is that your peers, the society around you, enjoys a soft power over you in the way you behave, in the way you react to situations. Today's panel wishes to discuss how students can navigate the various facets of peer pressure better. With that, I will introduce to you our first speaker of the day. It is our privilege to introduce to you Mr. Philip Burrett. Mr. Burrett retired as Deputy Headmaster from the illustrious Doon School in Dehradun after 44 years of serving in education across various educational institutions. He served the Doon School as Housemaster, Head of Department, Dean of Student Welfare, Dean of Activities, Deputy Headmaster, Second Master, and Acting Headmaster with great distinction. He also carried out a visioning exercise for the Doon School in 2011 through an in-depth study of a number of British public schools and various schools in the US. Mr. Burrett qualified as a leadership trainer at Wellington College in UK in the year 2000. He is also an athlete, an adventurer, and a naturalist. It is indeed our privilege to present to you Mr. Philip Burrett. Sir, over to you.
Thank you very much, Shubayu. Can you hear me, Shubayu? Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So good evening to you, to Achin, and to our esteemed panelists, and a very good evening to all our guests who have tuned in. So what I wish to do is just to lay the foundations of the topic and then hear it from our esteemed panelists. So peer pressure, being put simply, is the imposing of the will of an individual or a group of individuals on to somebody else in order to control and have authority over him or her, and to bring the individual to behave and act like the others. In other words, to fit in. Some degree of peer pressure may be okay, as we're all gregarious animals, and the group will indeed influence and shape us. And I think parents should talk about this as something which is normal in the growing up of a child. It's almost as normal as losing one's milk teeth. However, the degree of peer approval, it differs. And we have, from peer approval that is simple to almost approval by cliques and to serious bullying. And that's the time it's something that we need to step in and take cognizance of. Is peer pressure a form of bullying? I think it is. I think at some level where it begins to hurt people, it is a form of bullying. Now, an army trainer who is shouting out orders to troops to get them to exercise is not peer pressure. For neither is the trainer a peer, or nor are the army recruits doing anything they didn't know they had to. In ancient tribes, people needed to hunt and to think alike and to be of single mind. And this forced people who did not conform to the rituals of the group, it forced them out of society. Thinking differently and being an individual would have threatened the existence of the others or the success of the hunt. Therefore, in some instances, it is good that we all think alike. Leadership of the tribe, however, usually fell upon the person who thought differently, and then he made the others conform. Now, peer pressure is not confined to childhood. The recent suicide of a young actor in Mumbai might have been the result of peer pressure, bordering on severe bullying from the more powerful recruitment lobbies who resent others' successes. It can be seen in corporate offices, in school staff rooms, in golf clubs, where the weaker, newly inducted are forced to conform to the wills of the older and more influential. Peer pressure is very strong in childhood, however, and young adolescence, where the group or the individual forces the other to conform to its ways of dressing, speaking, behaving, in order to get admission into the group. And kids will imitate the group to be approved of, since being left out or isolated is one of the worst nightmares of the young. The child is compelled to fit in or to be alone. Often the choice that he or she has to make to fit in go against the intrinsic values of him and his family or his school. And there seems to be in adolescent groups a certain pecking order, which is maintained through power over others. So there is a hierarchy. Once set up, it continues. It is indeed sad to see that the most wonderful time of one's life, our childhood, which is meant to jump, play, and frolic and explore, may turn into be one of the worst times of our lives if one is unfortunate to be in the wrong group or the wrong school or the wrong club or the wrong housing society. Sometimes all it takes is one other person to make life miserable. And children are hurtful and insensitive beings when they're young. Peer pressure is exceptionally dangerous when it is imposed by the physically, financially, intellectually stronger and more influential children on the others in exchange of membership to the elite clubs. Now, peer pressure knows no gender divide. Girls are no less cruel when it comes to coercion than boys, especially when it comes to body shaming and forcing others to conform to a dress code or making juvenile drinking a passport to club membership. So many young girls that turn anorexic after their supermodel idols with their waif-like figures. Now at the school I last served, I saw this at close hand, where I saw boys of 12 years old come in from different schools and different backgrounds. They were so different. They were a diverse bunch of people, only to be forced and churned into peer pressure by the others, so that the next 3 years became everyone had to conform. They became the gray blazers that we saw, the ubiquitous gray blazers. But in their last year, as they were leaving school, they started turning to be individuals again, which meant that there was a degree of peer pressure that made them conform. And then they became individuals once again. This made me wonder whether this was a sort of a survival technique in boarding schools. Does one have to conform in order to survive? Now, there are different types of peer pressures. There is spoken and unspoken. Spoken, of course, being more direct. And of course, there's a subtle or tacit form, giving one the cold shoulder. There is a subtle form of peer pressure which comes from advertisements and billboards, from heroes and film stars and sports personalities, singers and celebrities. And therefore, these people have such a lot of responsibility in the lives, in shaping the lives of young people. From smoking and drinking to physical shape, to fad diets and fashions, all these are influenced subliminally by important people on the youth. Now you have direct or indirect peer pressure, spoken or, which is usually behavior centric, behave in this way or else. Indirect, where a teen maybe heard talking about somebody else, and this would be picked up indirectly. There's individual peer pressure and group peer pressure. Now, where one person coerces, it would be individual. But what is very powerful is when groups of teenagers start moving towards pressurizing others. And then these groups, they achieve cult status, like the Hells Angels and the skinheads and the neo-Nazis. These are powerful groups influencing pressure. Also, we must also understand that there is a positive peer pressure also. Not all peer pressure is negative. A lot of good things are passed on from kid to kid, from group to group. And I've seen a lot of this too. Now, no matter what type of peer pressure we talk about, most drug and alcohol abuse, stealing, street fights, shoplifting, juvenile sexual activity, even suicide attempts, and other forms of risky behavior is mostly peer pressure related. It's almost like a rite of passage to the membership of this dangerous club. Where peer pressure is bad is when it leads to people doing something wrong against their wills. Now, as we get older, there is a desire to be different, and this is not to conform. Hence, peer pressure, I think, loses some of its impact as a kid moves into his later teens. There are some myths around peer pressure. The first one being bullying is a fact of life and it won't have serious effects. This is completely wrong. Bullying has some serious effects and it can scar people for lives. The second myth is that there's nothing that one can do about peer pressure. I think that there's a lot we can do about peer pressure. To start with, we must keep channels of communication open with the young. We need to build confidence. We have to develop a plan, a game plan. We have to use our own influence in role modeling the right type of behavior. We've got to set age appropriate limits, and we've got to show confidence in the kid's ability. And we also need to sometimes share our paths, our journeys with them. Therapists and teachers, school owners must keep a careful watch on the telltale signs of peer pressure and how it affects people in the sense that personal dress, hygiene, the company they are keeping, what are they eating, what are sleeping habits, what are they reading, what are they watching, body shape. All these have to be closely watched and monitored. Now, since adolescents are hardwired to taking risks and experimenting with certain behavior, we need to challenge children with real adventure. We need to challenge them with real risks. Some of my mountain biking expeditions and high altitude treks with my students were a good substitute for some of the stupid risks that their peers would challenge them by. And in the words of Kurt Hahn, famous educationist and the founder of Gordonstoun School in Scotland and the Outward Bound movement, he said that if you give a child a passion for a sport, a skill, or a service, you safeguard him against a lot of peer pressure. And the last myth is that peer pressure only impacts one's social life. It's got nothing to do with academic life. This too is completely wrong. Children who are peer pressured and bullied will first show poor results. It affects academics in a large way. The mistake teachers and parents sometimes make are to advise children to resist peer pressure, forgetting sometimes what it was like when we were young. It is very difficult. It is the most difficult thing to resist the trend of the other group and to go against the flow of the majority. Yes, while there are some no-nos which we have to firmly establish with our children, we need to build resilience. And building resilience is of prime importance. To say that firm but convincing no is to be able to live apart from the group for a while. And we must train our children to stand alone at times. Another aspect of peer pressure is the effect it has in undermining the confidence of the one under pressure. Therefore, a person who is under peer pressure and bullied begins to feel that I am unlovable, I have to conform, I am not accepted. And this leads to a lowering of self-esteem. So the ones putting the pressure are good people, but the ones that are being pressurized become the bad people. It is here that the role of the teacher and the mentor is of paramount importance. They must strive to build morale, confidence, and courage in the bullied ones by involving them in sport, developing a talent, and etc. And I want to end by teachers can develop the I am, I can, I have skills. I am means children have to believe I am loved, I am confident, I am good looking, I am respected. I can read, write, I can stand up for my rights, my values and beliefs. And I have skills. That is I have means what the support. I have abilities, opportunities, good friends. And it is incumbent on all educators and mentors to be aware that this form of bullying leads one to being a crippled adult. The last line I want to mention is that it is easier to build strong children than to heal broken men and women. Thank you very much. Over to you, Shabai.
Thank you so much, sir. Week after week, it has been our privilege to be on the other side and watch you deconstruct each one of our topics into such beautiful introductions that the rest of the discussion just naturally flows. Thank you. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my job to introduce our next speaker to you. Our next speaker is Mr. Auchin Bhattacharya. Auchin is the founder and CEO of Notebook. A chartered accountant by training, he was a director at Deloitte prior to starting Notebook. He has worked in India and abroad in various senior capacities in GE, PwC, KPMG, and Deloitte. Auchin is an avid reader and a passionate traveler, with a keen interest in economics, history, literature, and philosophy. He's a regular speaker at various forums and chambers of commerce, and also contributes articles to numerous publications regularly. He's also on the board of some of the most renowned corporates and contributes significantly to brand strategies. Achin, over to you. Achin, we can't hear you.
Shiva, am I audible now?
Now, fine. Loud and clear.
Good evening, everyone. I once again welcome all of you to today's session on a topic which is very important and relevant in current times. Now, peer pressure is something that has been around for ages, and it has been omnipresent across geographies and age groups. However, with social media offering minute-by-minute status updates and peek into other people's lives each day, peer pressure of having to conform to the behavioral pattern of the other members of the group is at an all-time high. Before I move forward, a very special welcome to our panelists who have joined us today to enlighten us with their thoughts and real-life experiences. Now, first coming to peer pressure among adults, no two individuals are identical. Each one of us have our own skill sets and lifestyle preferences. However, adults can also be vulnerable to peer pressure. Some examples: going to certain clubs where members of your group go, buying a luxurious car, which normally is beyond affordability because others in your peer group are riding the same, sending kids to a certain school, opting for only designer brands or shopping from certain stores, losing weight to be ultra thin even if health suffers. But as Mr. Burrett also mentioned, especially among adolescents, peer pressure is a very serious and huge issue. They are particularly vulnerable because they are at a stage of development when they are separating more from their parents' influence, but have not yet established their own values or understanding about human relationships or the consequences of their behavior. Now, because adolescence is all about testing limits and seeking new experiences, sooner or later, teens will face peer pressure and difficult decisions that may be unpopular with friends. Now, if a teen increasingly finds himself in uncomfortable situations, they need to reassess their friendships because true friends respect each other's choices. We are at our best when we surround ourselves with people with similar values and interests. So the bottom line is being aware of and carefully choosing the influence of peers that will lead to healthy and happy experiences. Now, coming to different types of peer pressure. Like we discussed about positive peer pressure, so Barrett also mentioned. Now, not necessarily peer pressure is always negative. It can also act as a positive influence if behavior is healthy, age appropriate, and socially acceptable. If members of a cricket team take a pledge to abstain from drinking alcohol to focus on staying healthy and win games, other students may adopt the same behavior. Similarly, in a peer group, if people are striving for good grades, a young teen can be positively influenced to study. Likewise, joining a debate team, opting for higher studies, or taking care of health by exercising. So these can be peer influences, which are positive peer pressure. But coming to the negative side of it, young people often lack the skills to come up with an excuse or reason to say no to negative peer pressure. And that's very important. Asking a young teenager to engage in a behavior that is against their moral code or family values is a type of negative peer pressure. Now, it very often happens that teens see the actions of other teens with stronger personalities and are put in a position of following the leader or walking away. People at times engage in behavior that goes against their beliefs simply because they want more acceptance in the group. So drinking, smoking while you are still underage, experimenting with drugs, wearing clothes which you normally don't like, rash driving just because your friends are doing the same. So rather doing anything which you don't want to do are examples of negative peer pressure. Peer pressure can also be spoken peer pressure, where a teenager is suggested or persuaded by his friends to engage in a specific behavior. Now, this can either be a one-on-one or in a group. So what are the options? The child or young adult has only two choices: saying no, which means adhering to his or her core values and beliefs, or saying yes, going along with the group. Likewise, if we come to unspoken peer pressure, it is very common to follow the actions and preferences of an older cousin or a more popular friend. We all had such experiences during growing up years. However, many young teens lack the mental maturity to control impulse and make wise long-term decisions. This can be imitating someone else's style, fashion, joining a club, team. What is common is that the child is left to choose whether they want to follow along or not. Again, as we discussed earlier, it can either be direct or indirect. If it's direct peer pressure, the other teen is put in a position of having to make an on-the-spot decision to either say yes or no. Coming to indirect peer pressure, now this is more subtle when a teen overhears a friend gossiping about another person and then reacts to the gossip by doing the same in order to gain more acceptance. This conversation can be about alcohol, drugs, or anything else. This can still exert a strong influence on a young person. Now, some notable movies about peer pressure, some very, very beautiful work that has been done earlier. For instance, Mean Girls, a 16-year-old homeschooled girl returns to US after a 12-year research trip in Africa and settles in Illinois. So after settling down, on her first day of attending a public school, she attempts to make new friends, but to no avail. And then the story starts from there. So this has been captured very beautifully in some works of literature and movies as well. Now, moving on, I firmly believe that counseling has a very major role to play here. Because mental well-being, which is often ignored in our society, is extremely important for the overall development of a child. Children very often need to talk to someone neutral without the fear of being judged or any kind of repercussions. Internet and social media have undoubtedly acted as a catalyst and fast-tracked the growth of our next generation. A 14-year-old today and a 14-year-old 30 years back, we all know the difference. But with more exposure comes more distraction, and that is where need of a voice of sanity really arises. Giving a patient hearing without interruption is the key. Things are changing for better now in terms of awareness, but still by and large, I believe these changes are only happening at the top end of the social pyramid. It will take some time for change to percolate to every layer. Now, we discussed about what peer pressure is, types of peer pressure. Now coming to how to deal with peer pressure, which is very important. Adolescence is when our teens expand their relationship beyond homes. And this is a critical developmental step towards being an independent adult. But as teens navigate peer culture, parents play an important role in preparing them with the social skills needed to make their own smart choices and to avoid peer pressure. Now, it is very important to be clear about values while still interacting with people who may have differing ones. So I believe, moving on, it is very important at times to say no, but it is also important to teach twins and teens to say no only when they really mean it. No should always mean no. No shouldn't mean maybe. It is important to be clear and firm that the answer is no. It is not up for negotiation. They should state their position clearly in a non-negotiable but also non-confrontational way. Also, another very important aspect, moving on, is being mindful of body language. Words are only a small part of the story we tell. Body language is also a big factor in what we communicate to others. Saying no while smiling and leaning into someone could send mixed signals. No is more clearly communicated through body language. When you stand your ground, make eye contact, and still remain calm. Now, sometimes teens may hesitate to say no because they think it will be unpopular with friends, and that's practical. No one wants to be the odd one or to appear like they're judging friends for their choices. A helpful strategy is to offer alternatives. For example, a young adult facing peer pressure to bunk class with a friend could respond, "I'm going to class, but I'll meet up with you after college." Also, it is important to reinforce values. While teens make a choice that is right for them and stick with it, they learn to express their values. What is okay for one person may cross a line with another, and that's completely acceptable. So it is up to them and not their friends to decide what they value. So it is up to parents and teachers to establish the boundaries that will keep them safe and to guide them towards healthy values they will choose to follow. Now, finally, it is important for adults to demonstrate how to say no clearly and definitively through body language and words, being subtle and commenting on how to navigate the world helps. This way, children get practice painlessly from our life experiences. I once again thank all of you for giving me a patient hearing, and I look forward to the views of the esteemed panel on this topic. Over to you, Shubhai.
Thank you so much, Achin. I'm sure the wonderful views that you shared, our audience is taking it to heart. I would take this opportunity to narrate a small story here. When we were setting up Notebook, we traveled to various parts of the country visiting schools all across. One of the most glaring examples of peer pressure that we found in classrooms was the hesitation that students feel in asking a teacher to repeat a particular point or to go over a portion again. We all know, as educators, students learn at their own pace. And various students find it very important that a particular topic be dealt with multiple times. And this was unfortunately missing in classrooms where they would fear being ridiculed by their friends. This was one of the reasons that Notebook was born out of. What I will do now is give you a quick glimpse of what we do at Notebook and how you can use Notebook with your students. As I mentioned earlier, to battle this coronavirus pandemic, we have made Notebook completely free, and this username and password gives you unlimited access to all of our content. Once you're inside a particular class or a topic, you could then navigate to the respective topic and you would find video lessons waiting for you there. I will take the example of a class 11 lesson in English. Now this video is available to the student 24/7 wherever they are and whenever they want to study.
Hello students, welcome to today's video lesson. Before we begin today's discussion, let me ask, how many of you here are artists? How many of you are painters or appreciate paintings and sketches? Art is a natural language of expressing oneself and is a universal form of communication. Thomas Merton once said that art enables us to find ourselves and lose ourselves at the same time. Today, we shall discuss an excerpt from an article by Natalie Troveroy titled Landscape of the Soul, Ethics and Spirituality in Chinese Painting. This excerpt is a comparative study of Indian and Chinese.
As you can see, this video pertains to this particular topic in English. Along with the videos, there are notes that the students can use to study from. Every note explains the topic in a brief manner, gives a brief background, and of course goes on to a much deeper exploration of the topic. There are also question answer sets which help students revise questions that may come from the textbook or past year's CBSE papers. The most important thing is the fact that this is ubiquitous. The student has this tool at his disposal or her disposal anytime, anywhere they want. And therefore, their need for repetitive revisiting of a topic or revision as and when they want to, maybe just before an exam, or maybe 6 months down the line, or maybe when they're getting into the next class, they have unlimited access, which makes it much easier for them to cope with their academic pressures. With that said, we will now return to our today's discussion, and I have a stellar set of panelists waiting to share their views with you. It is our privilege to introduce our first speaker of the day, Mrs. Rita P Taneja. Mrs. Taneja is an educationist with 30 years of experience in school education. She is an educator, principal, teacher trainer, researcher, mentor, and content developer for CBSE, resource person for CBSE, and a QMS lead auditor for RBSE. She is the treasurer of Jaipur Sahodaya Schools Complex, member of School Management Committee of St. Edmund's School, Subodh Public School, Rambagh, Jaipur, executive member in Department of Science and Technology, Rajasthan, member of the Core Committee on Jaipur Declaration, Making Schools Safe for Children in Rajasthan, and an ambassador for the Clean India campaign in Jaipur. She has attended international study programs to understand and integrate the teaching pedagogy, resulting in a multidimensional and cross-cultural approach, motivating the school to take a dynamic approach, becoming the International Schools Awardee by the British Council for 3 consecutive terms from 2013 to 2022. Her contribution in the fields of education and social service has won her many accolades and felicitations, including the President APJ Abdul Kalam Enlightened Citizen Award, Life Empowerment Awards for Schools, Avantika Honors, Rotary Club, Lions Club, Exceptional Women Award from Women Economics Forum. Being an author and editor, Mrs. Taneja has published a series of books for students from classes 1 to 5 on English conversation, assisted in the review and development of teachers training manuals on adolescence education program by CBSE, stress management among principals, CBSE article on integrated role of industry and academic institution in bridging the skill gap, and many educational, inspirational, and motivational articles for Times of India and Hindustan Times. Her management abilities and interpersonal skills encourage her team members to perform to their best abilities, bringing many laurels for her school. Ma'am, it is indeed our privilege to have you here with us today.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Shivayu, for introducing me. And today we are all here to deliberate upon the thoughts of the peer pressure. This pandemic has brought about many revelations to us, and the things that we used to talk about in theory are now sadly have come to the forefront. Peer pressure among children, of course, is evident as spoken by previous eminent speakers. And we all know that no person is an island. And it's always been known to everybody that a man is known by the friends or the company he keeps. So we all know the children, the teenagers, adolescents, as we all know, is the age of stress and storm. Here the teenagers are overburdened with the expectations of the parents, the teachers, the society, and these child adults are confused, and added to it is the peer pressure. Now they're always confused and they are overburdened by peer pressure. The only reason being is that they want to be accepted by the people who are around them, by their group, by their gang, and they want to be a part of the in group. So definitely acceptance rules the peer pressure, and children do a lot of things which may be right, may not be so right, to get accepted by their friends. So peer pressure, of course, can inspire them. It influences the children. The adolescents and their friendships are famous. It either builds a student or it breaks the personality. As it was already told earlier, it can leave scars which can never be repaired by anything. Of course, peer pressure is never all bad. It brings in friendships. sets positive examples, gives feedback and advice. Teenagers need all kinds of assurance regarding their physical appearance, their abilities, their capabilities, and friends and peer group can always give positive feedback and advice, correcting them, encouraging them. Socializing is very important for all of us to develop into normal um, citizens of our country and society and family. So peer group always encourages us, makes us go through new experiences. And of course, the peer pressure can be positive and can be negative. When it is positive, it makes us aspire, it makes us do good things and flourish. Negative things, yes, it's a very dangerous thing. The negative things that we see due to peer pressure amongst adolescents are, as you can see on the screen, internet addiction, violence, the driving, bullying, abusing.
If I may interrupt you for a second, I'm really sorry. I think you've shared your Chrome screen rather than your presentation. So I think we're all looking at your Google Chrome instead.
Okay, just a minute.
Sure, ma'am.
Just a minute. So peer pressure, it can be very good for all of us. It can be bad, but we all have to make sure that we as adults are present for our children. We counsel them, maybe as teachers, maybe as parents, as friends. We should be there for them. We all have gone through our own teenage and turbulent times. If we are careful and if we pay attention to our children and we listen to them, that is the only thing that is needed, just to pay attention. Maybe a attentive teacher, maybe a friend, maybe a careful parent, anyone who is around their teenagers, to listen to them, to care for them, can always help the child to make sure. Is my screen visible now?
Yes, ma'am, we can see now. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. So we all know the risks. Sir had already spoken about it. And positive peer pressure encourages constructive actions and helps each other. And the type of age-appropriate peer pressure that we want is to encourage our children to move towards achieving their optimum, because every child has a set image of himself or herself. If they have positive peer group, they increase in all the optimum potential that they have, and they can go up to become whatever they want to be. Sky's the limit. But peer group is very much needed, as it helps to build the self-esteem, confidence, and lot of things that we all need when we go through the stage of turbulence. A close bond with friends helps us to release the pressure, the changes that are happening physically, the expectations of the parents, the adults around us. If we have good friend circle, it helps us. And of course, how does peer pressure make us feel? The pressure and the difference between pressurizing and encouraging, I think we all know about these things. The only thing as adults that we need to do is listen to our children, pay attention, guide them, listen to them, and help them wherever we can, just by giving a patient listening. We all know about the famous suicide which has happened sadly of Sushant Singh Rajput. Could have been avoided. He has come to limelight. In fact, this sad episode has brought to limelight a lot of things our children are facing. And we have the peer pressure everywhere. In school, we talk about our children, and workplace, outside, family, friends, everywhere. The basic nature of the man is just to be accepted. And peer pressure always remains a part of life, whichever age we are. Negative and positive will depend upon how we handle it, how we are able to do the conflict resolution, how we are able to handle, how we are able to use the feedback that is given to us. And if we succumb to the pressure of it, then of course we fail. The real life example, we can see that children today go to school, they have friends and family. That is where the pressure comes from. But peer pressure can give reinforcement, they can model our behavior, sometimes they can punish us, and of course we learn under a peer group. The apprenticeship can be given by the peer group. It is like a Trojan horse. You know, we think we are something, we want to be somebody, and we end up being somebody else. And if the peer pressure around us is negative, it will break us down. If the peer group is supportive, encouraging, then the Trojan horse becomes the real horse. Whatever we dream of as teenagers, we can actually actualize and optimize our performance if we are surrounded by friends and adults who can encourage us and lead us to a better performance. Peer group always develops morals, values, helps us to get along with each other. It helps in learning the appropriate socio-cultural norms. It helps us to achieve personal independence also. And of course, how we can do it, I as a teacher would just suggest that we should talk to our children. We should give them positive pressure, give them the information that they need. If we give them the information as adults, they will have proper information. If they hear only to their friends, they will have maybe the glamorized version of the information, or they will be misinformed. So if we have confidence in our children and if we talk to our children appropriately at the age that they need counseling, we can help our children, encourage them, may it be our children, may it be the students that we are handling. And we should be able to teach our children the most important thing, the power of saying no. The moment we encourage or we give confidence to our children that they can say no, and it has to be accepted by their peer group, we have built a bond with them. Our children look up to us as role models. They don't want us to be their friends, but they want us to be around when they need a friend. If we as a mother or as a teacher, if I'm able to create an inner voice in my children, I think I've done my bit of creating a positive peer pressure. So we can only make our teenagers our friends. We can suggest them the ways how to keep the communication open. We can encourage them positive social networking. We can help the child build self-esteem and provide opportunities for our children to practice the things that we talk about. So we have to teach them, most important, how to say no without creating conflict. We have to make sure our children do not end up in trouble by saying no. We should teach them the tricks or strategies of keeping friends, staying out of trouble, and having fun. And we should be able to tell our children how to listen to them. In fact, I tell my children and my students that apply a mama test or a papa test. Supposing if you are doing something with your friends, just think, would your parents or would your teachers be proud of seeing you doing or performing whatever act you're doing? And if the answer is no, you know what you have to do. So it can be bullying, drinking, whatever the experiments the children should do in a normal environment. They should be encouraged. They should be guided. They should not be kept away from the things that they should be doing in their normal age, but they should be encouraged that they should be able to find it themselves. And they should be encouraged that if they're happy with the friends that they are, and if they feel very comfortable with their friends, then they're in the right company. But if the children show some warning signs, we should be able to catch them on the right moment, counsel them, control them, and make sure that the peer pressure becomes positive and they do not lose on their outcome. And of course, sometimes we cannot notice all the peer pressure if something wrong is happening with our child's life. But as adults, the body language, the attitude signals can lead us to think. Sometimes nowadays it's a big issue of dressing, the way they talk, the way they behave. Parents are in fact the last ones to know that there is something going wrong, because the child keeps the guard intact when in front of the parents or around the parents. It is in fact the school and the teachers that come to see the child. The first signals of trouble are seen by an attentive teacher. So if there is something going wrong with the friends, sometimes the children come up to me and say, "Ma'am, I'm not feeling well. I don't want to talk to anybody because my friend says he or she will not talk to me." Sometimes I feel, my God, such a silly thing. But then I realized it may be silly for me, but for the child who's going through this traumatic experience that the best friend says, "No, I will not talk to you," how important it is. So it is that time that children need support from us as adults, and we need to tell them that they should be able to hold whatever their convictions are, what do they want, and they should be able to say no. So, of course, we can keep away all these negative aspects from our child's life. We can make our children grow up safely, and with the guidance and counseling, we should be able to tell our children that it is okay to be alone even in the crowd, because even a tiger in the jungle roams alone. So if we do not find a company which suits us or which inspires us, we are better off alone. But we as adults should be able to give our children the confidence that wrong is wrong, even if everyone is doing it, right is right, even if no one is doing it. So we should not we should not let our children change just because people say that way. We should be able to assert in our children the power to be ourselves, to hold our convictions, and lead a fruitful and happy life. So, peer pressure may not always be wrong. The only thing that goes wrong is that when we are not able to navigate it to our advantage. So, if the children have the courage and the support to navigate the peer pressure to their betterment, definitely I'm sure our children cannot go wrong. And with today's generation doing so much better than us, I'm sure children with the right counseling can come up and enjoy the peer group and learn from their peer group. Thank you so much, Vayu, for having me here and allowing me to share my views today and sharing my experience as a teacher with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It's been a privilege listening to you and watch you, as always, take out the topic into different compartments and dealing with them so beautifully. Thank you so much for that. It is now my duty to introduce to you our next speaker. Our next speaker is Mr. Peter Ronald Mascarenhas. Mr. Mascarenhas hails from Mangalore in Karnataka. He has 32 years of experience as a teacher, of which the last 20 has been as a headmaster. And for the past 28 years, he has been living in Saudi Arabia. He is currently serving as the principal of the Wurood International School, Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, which has students from more than 30 nationalities. As a head of the school, he introduced and implemented successfully many new generation programs like robotics, school cinema, scouts and guides, outbound programs, and Gavel Club, with sole intention of promoting life skills. He has the experience of handling students of many nationalities and firmly believes that every child can learn at his or her own pace. He is a seasoned trainer and conducts training programs for teachers and students on experiential learning, parent-teacher relationship, stress management, peer learning, peer pressure, and life skills. He is also a Toastmaster and mentors students for public speaking. He is an active member of many social organizations and is currently serving as the General Secretary of the Karnataka NRI Forum and also a coordinator for the CBSE Saudi Chapter Western Zone School Principals. It is our privilege to have you with us today, sir. If I may invite you.
Good afternoon to all of you. Am I audible?
Loud and clear, sir.
Yes, am I audible, sir?
Yes, sir, we can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for the panelists. And I heard the previous panelist. Maybe sometime I may sound repetitive, but the topic is such that we all have common opinions across the schools. Sir, I can go. Okay. You can go to the next slide, sir. See, as a previous speaker said, it's a part of our life, whether it's a student life or a child life. Previous question, it's a part of our life, whether the child life or a student life or in our professional life, and it can be positive or negative. What I'm going to focus is, we are a part of a school and where there are more than students from more than 30 nationalities, and dealing with the students of more than 30 nationalities have their own challenge with the multi-ethnic, multi-religious, and multicultural environment and background. Dealing with the peer pressure in the school have a different dynamics. So I would like to focus on this area. Can you please next slide, sir? As our previous speaker rightly said, one best way to tackle the peer pressure is to equip our kids. And as CBSE rightly, stating, the focus on the life skills and the life skill education. If you really look into the life skill, let us say communication, the interpersonal skills, the social skills. If a child is equipped and taught in those areas, definitely child knows how to navigate with their peers. Child is able to communicate well. He has a better self-esteem. He knows, he has better interpersonal and social skills. So he knows how to handle those situations far better. He can handle those situations far better because of the focus on the life skills he is learning in his life. And a child with a lot of confidence develops a self-esteem. He can create a self-esteem provided he gets a lot of confidence. And that is one area where we can help the child. And another important area that helps a child to cope up with the peer pressure is the value system, the upbringing he comes from the family, where the parents and teachers have a greater role building their value system. If a child's value systems are very good and strong, automatically what happens, he will be in a better position to navigate in a tactful way and knows what is right and what is wrong. And will be able to face the peer pressure in a better way. And we must always, as the previous speaker rightly said, we must always insist that saying no is not a bad thing. I remember a few years back when my daughters finished the schooling in Saudi Arabia and venturing back to India to the college, I told one thing to her. I said, you can be smiling, you can make friends and be friendly with your friends and peers, but learn to say no. And learn to saying no is not a bad thing. And if you have the conviction and the values with you, and you have the skills to navigate with the peers, definitely you will come out successful and you will say no. So end of the day, how strong your value systems and how good tactful you are in coping with your peers, you will be able to do that. And another important thing, what I feel is the role of teachers, school, and the parents in creating good ecosystem. There is a saying, what you are will be defined by who are your friends. What you are is defined by who are your friends. And in this, your teachers, your school, your parents play a role, whether you are in a good company or a bad company. I think you can keep a track of them and create a good ecosystem. And you need to spot that in case something happening in the classroom, or some bullying happening, something happening, I think the teachers have a role to play to intervene and create an atmosphere in the class or the school or the house where children are safe and they feel that they are secure and they are comfortable. So I think the role of the teacher, the school, as well as the parents, and there will be some signs as a teacher, as a parent, you can make out whether the child is going through some pressure, some sort of bullying. You can make out from the body language and the state of mind he or she is in. So these are the things we need to focus, and the schooling and the parenting plays an important role in guiding our youngster to what we call face what we call the peer pressure. Having said that, peer pressure can also act as a positive reinforcement. It can inspire you. You get a lot of things from your friends. You get a lot of feedback. You can support, you help, and a good fun time you can have with your friends. So peer pressure need not be always negative. But having said that, one must find a balance while dealing with the peer pressure. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to share my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing those thoughts with us. And thank you especially for taking the time out across time zones to speak with us. Thank you. Thank you so much. There are a few questions addressed to you. I hope you will stay around for the question answer session. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for our next speaker. It is my privilege to introduce to you Mr. Amir Khan. Mr. Khan is the principal of the Abhaya school in Hyderabad. Mr. Khan has a BSc and an MSc in physics and a BEd and an MEd degree. He has worked as a full-time physical science teacher since 2006 and currently is the principal of the Abhaya school in Hyderabad after being the principal of the CMR International School. Across his career, he's had multiple achievements. He has won the Inspiring Teacher Award for Green Olympiad by CBSE, the Inspiring Teacher Award from the last 3 years by Indian Talent. In 2015, for the Innovation Challenge Innovators, he won the first place for the Rainwater Harvest Project. He won the same challenge in 2016 for the Self-Heating Jacket Project. And in 2017, he got the second place in the National Innovation Challenge by Manipal University for the project We Watch. He's been a speaker at the World Education Summit 2020 Hyderabad, a panel member for the Best Teacher Par Excellence Award 2019, received Best Faculty for Physics and Mathematics from Ambition's Career Counselors, received Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Award in 2019, the Indian Icon Award in 2018 from CED Mumbai, the Dr. S. Radhakrishna Samman in 2018 by Avantika Group New Delhi, and the Acharya Debobhava Award by Brainfeed in 2018. It is indeed our privilege to have Mr. Khan with us today. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Subhai Roy. Yeah, namaste to everybody who are all present here. This is Amir Khan. The topic today is like navigating peer pressure. So all my previous speakers, they all have taken my point, so I am under pressure now. Yeah. Peer pressure is a feeling to be accepted and respected by the group around, especially as you all know, as all the speakers were been saying, it's seen much in youngsters who like to feel we are cool and happy go lucky types. True. I think whoever is now in the participants along with my panelists, we all have come across this peer pressure in our day lives, right? We would all have called with one pet name which you whether like from somebody, which you don't like from somebody, correct? But still, we all have excelled FR. But today, I feel days are so sensitive that some kids don't like calling by their friends or bullying. And as the previous speaker said, no means no, that's strong no, right? So from why they are become so sensitive? What are the reasons? We never had that. If you all have remembered recently, there was in a big news about in cricket team calling Bravo and all as a Kala. If you all remember, all the teammates has said that we all have called him in a friendly manner. But the statement given by the West Indies players, even in our Sunrisers team, they took it in, I don't say it's a wrong way, but they took it in another way. For that, they need all have to be given explanation, which is finished long back, it's already done. So today, meaning we are acquiring the pressure by from our different sources. That's what I mean. And as peer pressure, it is like positive and as well it is negative, like as already covered by all our different speakers. If it can be positive, if all are studying hard and scoring well, then peer pressure could be called positive. If not, we call it as negative. Like yesterday, we have results in our state. Results has come in the evening. By next day morning in the newspaper, we have seen these many children they have suicided. Why they are taking such very low esteem decisions? What could be the reason? So to navigate it, there is only one way, which I feel that is like having self-esteem. Then how do we boost this self-esteem? From where do we get this self-esteem? Who are responsible for one individuals to boost self-esteem? I hope you're all thinking the answers are the school. The first school is at home, where parents need to be always there with the kids, and the second home is for the kids is at school. As in the previous speakers has said that peer pressure can be from at any age, or it can be from any way, any working place or whatever. True, I agree. But to handle this peer pressure need to be inculcated at the school friend and at the home friend in the very young ages, such that they should not get these negative thoughts to do any negative works. Like, I have lots of examples where children who come across this peer pressure, like I want to share few examples. Like one of my student, she's very weak at academics, but we never said that she is not fit for academics and all. Rather, I called the parents, oriented them, and told her this girl can do if she can be taken academics from NIOS. Everybody knows NIOS, the open schooling system. And that simple suggestion given to the parent and parental support made that girl to shine as a role model, and she's a top model from Hamstead today. I have many more examples like that. One of mine, very close to my heart, is one of my student who is having a problem like muscular dystrophia. And he's an intelligent guy, but kids, his friends used to bully him a lot and call him with different names. But that boy, being mentally stressed, physically unfit, he has been motivated by our curriculum. I can say the other thing I'm coming that the other aspect which helps the peer pressure to control is the curriculum too. Like where this boy handled very well, and today he has graduated in a distinction from the top universities. I'm not taking their names. So here I need to stress that who are really and very sad that for peer pressure, sorry to say, even parents are also responsible. And the other thing is the more important at the school age is the curriculum. I am working in such environment where we don't have grading system. I want to stress on this point because all the other panelists has covered many points and I don't want to repeat them, though I have prepared for it. And that is like the grading system. In our education, in our educational institute, we don't have the grading system. Rather, like as we really do in the Westerns, like today we are calling in CBSE as portfolio. Portfolio is a report where child, how he was when he joined in class 1 and as he move on to class 2, class 3, every year that will be carry forward to each class teacher to make them understand the child from all angles, like socially, emotionally. You all know that social, emotional quotient, intelligent quotient, and today with the new paradigm, the new thing has been added, which is all been circulating and we are all discussing today in many webinars and topics, is the adversity quotient. Yes, it's a new topic now we are discussing, but these are all if the part of the curriculum. The kids we prepare at the elder age, at the younger ages, as they grow older, they can handle any types of peer pressure. I just want to stress these points on where children they can come up and can handle any type of pressures, right? And peer pressure is, yeah, at a note, we enjoy at a note, and we also take it in a low esteem value. So how do we boost it? That's what I just want to stress, the 3 things where parental support is needed and curriculum makes a lot of difference. The grading system, really I need to stress the grading system where we are encouraging 2 children saying first, second, third. What about the remaining and all? That really makes, and actually I'm a movie buff, and recently, yesterday only, the movie released, Penguin. The story is about the peer pressure. where one child don't like the other to be get always accelerating in front of them. Yeah. So I take this platform to thank you for hosting me here, and good evening for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your views, and especially for the heartwarming stories and the examples that you gave from your students. It indeed shows the immense amount of impact that parents and teachers have on the lives of all of our students. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. With this, we move on to our next speaker. It is our privilege to introduce to you Dr. Ruby Gupta. Dr. Gupta is an author, a professor and head of the Department of English at the Indian Military Academy in Dehradun. She has been a best-selling author who initially chose to study science, but then switched to creative writing, dabbled in journalism, and was awarded 2 gold medals for English literature, and then went on to earn a PhD, and thereafter joined the world of academics. She has been an awardee of the GSE as Cultural Ambassador for the US by Rotary International, and also the recipient of the Pratibha Samman Award. Ma'am, it is our privilege to have you here with us today. Over to you.
I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Are you able to see me?
Not yet, ma'am.
Okay, I think it's on now.
Now we can see you. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I'm so happy to be here. And today's topic is really very different and very important, which is peer pressure. And everybody has spoken very comprehensively and lucidly about the topic. And I would like to bring a different take on it. And for this, I want to talk about the genesis of peer pressure. That where did this peer pressure come from, and what is the genesis? Now, for this, we will have to go back to human evolution. And in the earliest times, when human beings evolved and they started living in groups, and they realized that there is strength in numbers, and a person isolated would fall prey to animals, and all these kind of dangers were there. So the fact of being in a group ensured that a person would stay safe. And gradually this got encoded into the genetic code of human beings. So much so that today the situation is such that if a person is isolated, he feels a sense of fear and insecurity. And this is the genesis of peer pressure, that people need to feel secure, they need to feel safe, and in order to feel safe and secure, they need to belong to a group. This is an inborn desire. This is the innate requirement of every human being. So we cannot fight against it, right? This is a requirement. You need to feel a part of a group. Now, in order to feel a part of a group, and hence evolved societies, hence evolved religions, cultures, nations, caste, creed, religion. If you see, they are all large groups of people, and they have people who think in a similar way into their group. And if some person goes out of the group, he is severely punished. Because why? It is a symbiotic relationship. The group gains strength in numbers, and the individual feels safe in belonging to that particular group. So this is actually the requirement for safety amongst humans, due to which they want to belong to a group. And this is the genesis of peer pressure. So peer pressure is nothing but the pressure to conform to a particular group dynamics. And this is present at every age, whether it is at a young age or in adolescence or adults. Everybody wants to be a part of a particular group. It may be an extended family, a small group like an extended family, or a particular religion or a particular region. So we have all these things, of belonging to a particular region. And that is why if you meet somebody from your region, you feel very happy, because it fulfills your need for safety and security, which is a very primal human need. So now that we understand the genesis of peer pressure, and we understand that it is a requirement for human beings, we need to use it for our benefit. There is no point fighting it, that no, don't, resist peer pressure and be strong, etc. So the my take on this is that how do we use peer pressure in a positive way? We can use it in a positive way if we all decide to bring about a great change in our education system. And what I'm going to propose is something really drastic. And I feel that notebook is the correct platform from where to propose something so drastic, because without this, no change can occur. And what I propose is that in every school, in the curriculum, from nursery to class 12, in the morning, the first period should be a zero period in which there should be something called morals and ethics, which should be introduced. It should be taught every day. Now, by taught every day, I mean it should be taught in the form of, in a very innovative way, through stories, through legends, through case studies, through real life examples, through role playing, through plays, and by giving real assignments to the students. So just imagine a child who studies this particular subject called morals and ethics from nursery to class 12. What is his outlook going to be? There is going to be a complete shift and a complete change in the majority of the students, in the minds of the majority of the students towards values, towards good values of kindness, being kind, being loyal, being sincere, being honest. These are the values which are lacking. And now the role of peer pressure. If the majority of students in a class are geared up towards these positive value systems, then the outlier or the person who does not conform or who is an aberration will be forced to conform towards positivity. So you see, I am turning around the entire concept of peer pressure into a positive way, that how we can use it positively, meaning that the entire group is geared up towards positivity, towards positive values, and anybody who goes out of the group is pressurized. The dynamics of peer pressure works upon him, and he is forced to conform towards the values, the good values. So this, I feel, is the need of the hour, because earlier there used to be a subject called moral science, which is no longer there. Nowadays in families, we don't have grandparents to tell them these kind of value-based stories. Children do not read Amar Chitra Katha. They do not read anything which give them a sense of values, which is why they are moving towards all kinds of negativity. Why are we blaming the children? And why are we saying that why do they want to be with the others? They want to be with the others and they want to do whatever the majority is doing because of the innate primal need to belong. Because if they do not belong, they feel unsafe, they feel destabilized, they feel afraid. So we must understand and we must use it. If we as educationists make up our mind that we must bring a turnaround. And I feel that we are giving a world which is full of corruption, which is full of hypocrisy to our children, which is very wrong. And we have forgotten the basic need or basic objective of education. The basic objective of education is to produce a good human being, and not to produce a human being whose head is filled only with facts and figures, and who believes that success at any cost is his mantra, right? Today we are training students only that, okay, you have to become successful at any cost. So there has to be a turnaround. And in this context, I would like to bring in what I have seen in my tenure at IMA. I find that over there, the cadets are, all the cadets are imbued due to their training with values of brotherhood, with values of honesty, integrity. So the few cadets who are aberrations or outliers, they are forced to conform to the values of brotherhood. So this is my take on this as this subject of peer pressure. It is completely different. And I do feel that we need to bring in morals and ethics, and notebook is a content preparation, creative platform and a company, so they can produce this kind of content. And I really appeal to the principals of all schools that please introduce this kind of half-an-hour module every day in the morning from nursery to class 12 if we want to bring about a change in our society and in the world. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, especially for those wonderful ideas on how education can bring about positive social change. Uh, Most of us who work in education technology, keep that as our goal in whatever we do. But thank you so much for that advice. Thank you so much for your views. Thank you for
You're
joining us today. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to introduce our next speaker for the day. Our next speaker is Ms. Toral Sharan. Toral is the head of PR and a career counselor at the Ecole Globale International Girls School in Dehradun. She was born in South Africa and grew up in England and moved to India in 2002 and currently settled in the hills of Dehradun. She has traveled extensively, volunteering for a range of NGOs and NGO projects at the grassroots level, which she calls making a difference. She likes to read, walk, and watch movies, and her motto to most matters of life is live and live to share. She has an experience of 14 years heading career counseling and international work at the forefront at Welham Boys and currently at the Ecole Global International Girls School in Dehradun. Ma'am, it's indeed a pleasure to have you with us today. Over to
The
you.
pleasure is mine too, Subayu, Achin, the panelists. Thank you so much for including me in today's notebook session. It's certainly a privilege to talk about navigating peer pressure. I think all of us have said pretty much what we can. Young, impressionable that students are, peer pressure has a tremendous impact. Mostly the middle years, grades 10, 8 to 10, especially during when you're evolving regarding subject choices. And I think, one of the things that comes out is that they are still at that impressionable age where they're trying to fit in with a friend or a group of friends. And I think that's where, it kind of starts to begin in their mind of where to follow. Social acceptances, they want to be liked, they're being disliked. There's all this going on physiologically in their body, and then they want to fit in, physically as well with their friends at school. I'm going to explain a few manifestations of peer pressure that comes into our daily life in the school. So one of them is when subject choices and careers are to be made, the peer pressure that already exists becomes a bit crucial, and thus the understanding is required before the child starts to regret it. And we're not talking about regretting it by class 10 or 12. We're really talking about it when they're 30, 35-year-old, which is what careers counseling is all about, right? We're making them choose subjects at 14, 16, 18, when we know that the human brain is not actually formed till 25. So these are very, very crucial times. So before this child regrets, first I'd like to discuss what kind of things that they do to please a peer pressure scenario and how they choose the subjects. So if you're weak at a subject, if a student is weak, which I've had many come to my office and express that, they want to do a certain subject, but they're weak at it, but they will still want to do it because their friend or their group of friends are very good at it, in the hope that this friend and group of friends will propel them along in that subject. It's there. I've experienced it. Choosing standardized tests when you first announce them. Say, for example, the Scholastic Aptitude Test, SATs. Long time, years back from the experience, I would announce it and you would have herd loads, 24, 30, 35 boys coming in or girls coming in and signing their names. Oh yes, they haven't realized what SATs are. Their parents have not explained it. They don't know what it's all about, but it just sounds good because the other guy has put his name on it or the other girl has put her name on it. So let's go and do it. So eventually I worked out a system where, parental approval first, informed choices, and then maybe, you know, it's a lot of hard work and you should be informed about it. This particular sort of en masse booking for something brings me to a little bit of maybe a cultural aspect, you know, because we like to live in numbers, in groups. We have to make choices with not only your mother and father and your brother and sister, but we have huge extended families that also have an input, which is not, I'm saying, the wrong thing, but this adds to the pressure of trying to be an individual and figure it out. I don't think that the sensitivities in the whole umbrella of our culture, school system, thinking system is quite there really to, you know, propel it in the right way. The other thing is, a lot of people choose to leave at a certain time. So we have a whole batch of them in the science students, you know, to go into the coaching houses, because my friend's going, I have to go. Little do they know that once they get there, they might have to have a big compromise. They won't be able to get a re-entry back in school, but they want to follow their friends for this IIT examination preparation, especially engineering students, you know, do that a lot. And we find, and we do the research, and we talk to them that 0.00x0% actually get into the IITs. And not only are they faced with not coming back to their friends and their old school, they're faced with not even the second level of universities that exist after IIT, but quite mediocre universities in their very hinterland, you know, hometowns that they end up with. And then they regret it, you know, later on. Another interesting factor about peer pressure, and, you know, each one surprises me more than the next, is you express yourself pretty well in English, and you write well, and you're in debates, and you're in quizzes. You should be a humanities student. But no, I'm going to choose commerce. Bulk applications for the commerce course. Go into commerce, lose the interest. It starts fading away day to day, and then you start making compromises with yourself, and you're not a very happy person. Students go through peer choices right up to college, and thereafter it starts to unravel. That what's the choice I made? Why did I do that? Because mehek, or, you know, that wanted to do this subject, because you're starting to struggle in your job, you're losing interest, and then you're just skipping from job to job, and then you lose yourself, you know, eventually searching for this continuous pattern of jobs. So it's as small as it seems, treading on popular pathways, trying to actually fulfill other people's shoes, even though she may be your best friend. You know, she's helped you in many other things, sitting, talking at late night, you know, after school or whatever. It actually does have greater consequences. So we have to really, you know, be careful of these consequences. The chances are you will be having an inability to cope with your subjects. With that, your low esteem will start creeping in. Your confidence starts to get damaged. You don't feel fulfilled, and you lose your interest. Your withdrawal symptoms become more apparent, and your inadequacies seem to creep in. Leads to a lot of dissatisfaction going up into the job and the careers, you know, ladder. So these are a few examples. Thank you for the opportunity. And to avoid, maybe we should just touch on, is keeping away from the negativity and minimizing it. Take advice, open yourself up talk to the people who are in the jobs to help you. And I think we should take all the stakeholders in, the parents, the school, the careers counselor, the person themselves, bringing the friend who she wants to do the same subject as the friends. Make informed choices, very informed. That's something, we are again relying on what I was talking about, our cultural umbrella. So I have a lot of scenarios in my office and saying, and I'm going to break into a bit of a Hindi here, which is not very good, is, Tauji ka beta ne ye kiya, ne Taiji ka beta aur beti ke saath ye hua tha. And, my answer to that is that aapka beta aur aapka beti ki safar alag hai. Uski individual hai, special hai, unique hai. Chalo hum un log उसपे concentrate करेंगे. चाहे ताऊजी का बेटा ने University of Toronto गया है और इसको भी जाना है, पर उसकी journey फिर भी अलग रहेगी, even ending up at the same university. Focus on your own skills and your own goals. Get to know yourself. We lose that along the way. Lots of pressure. We're talking about peer pressure today, but we know, all of us adults, that we've come through a lot of pressures through the cultural inheritance, I guess. Take a logical approach, yes, rather than edging on the emotional approach, and try maybe go for a scientific, logical assessment test to get yourself there. Seek support to the right people and nurture your self-respect. Respond to sensitivity to get back. Time to open up. Talk to a lot of people. And I think everybody, heads, schools, counselors, parents, teachers, let's all take it along into the positive zone and concentrate less on the pressure. Thank you so much, Subayu, Achin, panelists, for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing those views with us. It's particularly heartening to see the stress you laid on developing self-esteem, because we completely resonate your thoughts that every child needs to be given a very, very strong sense of self-esteem. In fact, when schools have been shut down, students have been learning from home online. We are particularly encouraged to see how much of the responsibility they're shouldering now and how proactively they're grabbing hold of every piece of content that they can find that will help their studies along.
Correct.
Thank you so much, ma'am. With that, we come to the question answer session. We've had some excellent discussions, excellent pointers from all our speakers. We are a little pressed for time, but we would want to take a few of them that have recurrently come from multiple people asking those questions. One of the questions, the first one is, sir, for Mr. Peter Mascarenhas. This comes from Mr. Dharminder Menon, who himself was a speaker at our panel 2 weeks back when we discussed multicultural classrooms. Mr. Mascarenhas, sir, are you there?
Yeah.
So Manan sir asks, grading system is responsible for peer pressure. Do we need to change the evaluation system? Kindly comment.
There is not I don't think there is a magic answer for it by changing the grading system. Look, different boards and different schools follow different grading patterns. End of the day, it's not the only grading pattern. How you address and evaluate our kids, that matters a lot. The feedback what we give to the students, that also matters a lot. And the support what we are giving from the parents, from the teachers, from the school side, I think that we have to take a holistic picture. I don't think grading alone is not a answer for the peer pressure what we are having. I think it is only one aspect of it. I think we need to look into it in a holistic way. Thank you,
sir, for that answer. I'm sure you and Manan sir will catch up because both of you are in Saudi Arabia, and this can be the seeds of a very good discussion. We just have time for one last question. I will ask both Mr. Khan sir and Mrs. Taneja if we could have your response to this particular point. Dr. Gupta raised a very pertinent point about saying that our curriculum perhaps needs a change where a certain set of social values, a certain set of morals must be imparted as part of the curriculum, right? To which one of the attendees has responded that why is there a need to have a separate period for moral values or education? Don't you think our curriculum needs a change? It should bring the change. Mrs. Taneja, if we could have you first.
I don't think we need a different separate period for moral values. Each time a teacher is interacting with a child, the teacher can use that time to teach all the values. With values, I would mean life skills. If we are able to teach our children, if I'm teaching a lesson in English, Hindi, any story that I'm teaching, there are so many things to be learned. The only thing is that we need a passionate teacher and a little attention from the teacher. Wherever there is a value that can be taught, the teacher can spend a minute or two fruitfully to engage in some conversation and talk about it. Even if you're talking about geography, we can talk about pollution, we can talk about the bad effect of the technology on things. Everything, every subject that we teach is a ground to teach values and life skills to our children. The thing is, the teacher has to have orientation that along with her subject in academics, she needs to pay focus on teaching values. We are all living in technology world. Information is all learned, understood very easily by children on their own. When the teacher is now a facilitator. So when she's transacting the lessons, definitely some dimensions can be added to it. And we have assembly time. We can do small plays of bullying. We can do so much in a theater, annual functions, in our inter-house competition. There is ample space. We do not need an extra class or a subject for moral science. All we need is to integrate that into our curriculum and transaction of classroom teaching.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Mr. Khan, sir, you said your school does not believe in grades. You already have a grade-free system.
Yes.
On this point of how values are integrated into the curriculum, if we could have your comments.
True. That we don't require a separate period for grade for moral values. Every class is a part. In every class, the moral value should go. Like I said, if any subject teacher, whatever the subject, even in math, science, social, anything, they can initiate. We have we follow our teachers has in every beginning of the class, they need to recall where they can talk. If it is age appropriate, if they are from 0 to 7, that class group, we trigger with some question. If it is 7 to 14, we take some age appropriate question that makes them to become aware of what is happening in the surroundings. At the same time, what is good, what is bad, if we discuss from that point, the first 5-10 minutes we do. And always our lesson plan includes the reverence to the past generation. Reverence to the past generation, I feel that point will give child get a lot of moral values. When we talk about our past generation, at least for 5-10 minutes, not ignoring the present. Yeah. So this is all part of our lesson plan where we does not require a special. And as I said, no grading system, that is giving observation. There's a lot of planning is required for this, where one teacher need to be an observer. And that is also there in our CCE from CBSE, CC has come up very beautifully. But fortunate or unfortunate, we are not having CC right now with us. Yeah, but the instead of that, with a new name like portfolios, if you do in a really essence value, where this will work to understand each child very well. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Unfortunately, that's all that we have time for today. We have more questions, and what we will do is we will send questions specifically addressed to the panelists over to them over email. And the panelists, if you could send us your replies, we will make sure that they are sent to the respective people asking those questions. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Team Notebook, for having us, articulate our thoughts, sharing, learning from each other. Thank you so much.
Right, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. Best wishes from Saudi Arabia.
Thank you, sir. I will just invite Auchin back for the vote of thanks formally, and then we'll close. Thank you.
I think we had a great session with every speaker coming in with fresh perspective. And I guess it is really, really great. And this is what is making Together for Education webinars so popular with esteemed educators like you. Burrett, sir, very nice presentation. really set the tone for the session. Thank you indeed. Rita ma'am, very well said on what our children expect from us and how we need to support our children and students. Peter sir, very brief but relevant presentation. Also, thank you for stressing on the importance of saying no. Mr. Khan, very neutral and frank deliberation. Thanks for discussing about grading system and real life case studies. Dr. Gupta, thanks for highlighting the genesis and need of man from times immemorial of staying in the group to feel secure and safe. Ms. Toral Sharan, thank you for highlighting the wholesome perspective, culture, schooling system, subject choices, very fresh perspective. And as you rightly said, it's important not to lose interest and confidence. So let's all take it on a positive zone. With this, I also thank the audience for their great support, which has encouraged us session after session to conduct this Together for Education webinars. We look forward to having you with us on our next session, which is on Wednesday, 24th June, on a very interesting topic, my favorite teacher. Thank you. Goodbye. Take care.
Thank you.